Hi everybody, welcome back to video 3. This is exercises. It's just some quick exercises that will help your dyslexic.
Thanks, Britt. Welcome back and thanks for watching. In this video, we're going to teach you some at-home exercises to strengthen some areas of the brain and help them start connecting better for better reading. Now, first of all, we know that there are underactive areas in the brain in struggling readers and dyslexics. And if a child is using compensating parts of the brain to read and learn words, then they will not achieve their potential for word retention and fluent reading. So they will struggle with choppy or non-fluent reading. They'll forget newly learned words, sometimes by the very next page. They will have to relearn the same words over and over again. They'll struggle to sound out words, even isolated words, and they'll have difficulty learning phonics sounds and have to relearn them over and over. They'll often guess at words when they're reading. They will miss punctuation. They'll read right past the end of a sentence and keep going. They will tire of reading sooner than typical children, and they'll have poor spelling and handwriting. They will miss or reverse syllables, and they may read or write letters or words backwards after the age of 6. Before the age of 6, it's actually normal. But not everyone with dyslexia will have problems with reversals. It is common, but it's not as common as these other symptoms or problems that we've talked about. Now, some of you might already have a child tested, but some might be wondering if they do need to go get an official dyslexic test because their child is struggling reading. But we at SLD, we're not that fond of labels anyway. We're not huge fans of them. We're big on just saying, look, if there's a struggle, if there's a weakness, then find it and strengthen it. And we believe in doing the interventions no matter how severe or how slight the problems are so that they don't become lifelong problems. However, a dyslexia label can be helpful because the child can get accommodations in school to help them if they are dyslexic, such as longer time on test or oral tests instead of written tests and fewer spelling words per week. Our schools here in our town are actually really great. They give accommodations if the child's struggling regardless of whether the child has a label or not, or an official diagnosis, but that's not the same everywhere. So if you feel like you need to go and have them officially tested, then it's a good idea to do so, especially if it will help you interacting with their schools and things like that. But the problem with dyslexia is it causes them to think that they're not intelligent. They start to feel like failures, and they start to hate school and be embarrassed around their friends. And without intervention, this is not something that they grow out of. It actually becomes a bigger problem as the words get harder and they go into higher grades that rely more on reading. So in this video, we're going to go into some assessments and exercises to help them move toward fluent reading. So children with dyslexia often struggle with visual perception and visual skills. Now, this is not eyesight. This is the way the brain decodes the signals of vision it is getting from the eye and responds with visual motor skills and reflexes. And also in WebMD published an article in 2003 wherein they reported new research by the University of Texas that showed dyslexics had problem understanding sound structures of both written and spoken language. And according to the National Institute of Health, in a study of auditory processing disorder and dyslexic subjects, about half of the children with the auditory processing disorder met the criteria for dyslexia, and about half of the dyslexia subjects met the criteria for auditory processing. So auditory and visual are very closely connected with dyslexia and often contribute to it. And this isn't surprising. If a child is not processing the language that they hear or see, how can they learn to properly decode it and connect it to the visual cues such as written words and letters? No wonder. You try reading when your disability includes both visual and auditory weaknesses. Sheesh. But these are such slight weaknesses that they're not usually noticed until they become a problem as the child enters school. So for this reason, we want to do some exercises to help with visual and auditory and stimulate the left half of the brain, which is the brain responsible for reading. Now, there's actually a number of auditory disabilities that can affect reading, but to start with, this is just a quick and dirty exercise to see some of the auditory skills in action and to know if your child's struggling in this area. This, you can see language processing, ordering, and short-term memory all in action. But what you want to do is you want to call your child in, give them a 3-step instruction like go to your room, hang up your jacket, and bring your shoes to me, and see if they can go do all 3 of them and return to you in the order that you gave them. You'd be surprised to see that most children, they go to their room and that's it. They didn't process anything else but that. Or they might process the very beginning of the end and skip the hanging up of the jacket. And some children, they just walk out and then they go, wait, I didn't hear you. What am I supposed to be doing? And you get frustrated because you think they just weren't listening, but it's that their brain wasn't processing it. You can also play 3 different sounds on your iPhone and then ask your child, those 3 sounds I played for you, what animals are those? What order did I play them in? Which one did I play first? Which one did I play second? And that you can test them in ordering and things like that. It's not an official test, but it gives you a really good idea as to how much your child is really processing auditorially. Now, in a room with people talking or a TV or a radio running, then some of those skills that we just did can become even more difficult for the child, and this is called auditory discrimination. So what you want to do is you want to do the same exercise, but give them different instructions this time so that the instructions are new to them. But do it while there's a TV or a radio running or a bunch of noisy kids playing in the background, and see if they lose some of their ability to do 3 steps in a row. Children at school age should be able to do 3 to 5 steps in a row without having to come ask what they were supposed to be doing. And if it's a problem when they're in a noisy environment, it becomes a bigger problem. That's very common, especially for kids with dyslexia. And this kind of gives you an idea as to what it would be like for them trying to learn from the teacher in a noisy classroom. So we're going to talk about visual skills. Here are the visual functions that are not usually checked at a normal vision check, but they do affect reading. So this isn't part of a normal eyesight check where you go into the doctor and he decides if your child needs glasses or not. These are all separate from that, and they require a optometrist of higher learning called a behavioral optometrist to catch these if there's any problem in these areas. Now, we're just going to talk about a couple that are the most common with dyslexia kids, where their brain takes in stimulation and then has to use motor skills and reflexes to get the eyes to do certain things. And if any of these problems are not working properly, it's not an eyesight problem. It's a visual skill problem. So let's get into this. The first one is smooth pursuit. This is really common in children with dyslexia. It's also known as slow tracking. But what smooth pursuit allows the eyes to slowly move across a visual field, such as watching a moving target, like birds flying across the sky, or eyes moving smoothly across a sentence. And although smooth pursuit is done with the eyes, it's actually a higher function of the brain that makes it possible. And only higher intelligent mammals have the ability to do this, namely humans and some primates. That's it. And some kids struggle to do this. Their eyes skip ever so slightly, and this makes them skip letters and words when they're reading. Oh wait, I wanted to show you this example of it. Let me show you. This is my daughter Scarlett, and you'll notice, watch in a second here, you'll see her eyes do these. Yeah, see that? Tiny little skips. Sometimes it even goes back and forth just a tiny bit. It's ever so slight. I'll let it run one more time so that you can see this. And her eyes start to get tired. Yeah. So you can see that, but like I said, it's very slight. So in this example, the red line indicates the eye movement. As you can see, it smoothly moves across the letters like it's supposed to, but then it skips or jumps over some. And you can actually watch their eyes doing this in an assessment. And it's super important when they're doing schoolwork, playing games, reading from the chalkboard. Your brain takes in the images that the eye feeds it, and it can't decode them properly if they're not coming in the right order or if it's skipping or jumping letters. And that's really common in children with dyslexia. So, like always, find the weakness and strengthen it. And this one can be strengthened pretty easily with some simple exercises. But first, let's have you check your child. So ask the child to watch, first put a sticker on the end of a pencil, and then ask your child to watch it as you move it across their visual field from right to left and then left to right. And do it slow enough that it takes about 10 seconds in each direction. And they should be able to hold their head still and move their eyes slowly to follow it. And the skips are very slight and might be almost unnoticeable, so you can video record it with your iPhone and then watch it in slow motion, or get a slow-mo app and video record it with that and then watch it in slow motion and see if their eyes do those slight skips that you saw in my daughter Scarlett there. But what you're looking for is if they cannot keep their head still while following the target, if their head follows their eyes, or like I said, if their eye does slight skips or jerks as it's supposed to be following and can't follow smoothly, then it would be affecting their reading. Now let's talk about saccade. This is also a visual skill. Saccadic eye movement is the ability to move the eye quickly from one focus to another. And the eyes do saccadic movements all day long to take in pictures around your environment. And then your brain molds them together to make one reality of your surrounding. Like in this picture here, when you look at a room, you're not just looking at it at one spot. Your eyes actually jump around to all different parts and your brain molds them together into one reality for you. Saccadic movements are used when reading too. So as your eye skips from one part of the text or word to the next, that's saccadic movement. And it's very important for reading skills once the child is reading whole words, because in typical readers, once they know the words without sounding out every letter, then the eye does little saccadic jumps from one word to the next, or in long words from one syllable to the next. So dyslexic kids improve considerably with exercises that build saccadic control and the smooth pursuit that we just talked about. So here's what you can do to see this one in action. Put a different sticker at each end of a ruler and then mark the middle. And then just ask your child to stare at the middle unless you ask them to look at a sticker, to look directly at the sticker and back to the middle. And then just watch their eyes as you call out, like in this case, kitty or puppy, in kind of a random order. See if their eyes can skip directly to the sticker and back to the middle, or if it does skips or jumps back and forth. What's really common is in the top picture here, you might see their eyes with the first movement get almost to the sticker and then slightly adjust a little bit further to hit their target. Or in the second picture here, it might go slightly past the sticker and bounce back ever so slightly to get the target there. Both of those are incorrect. The bottom one is correct. If they can make one eye movement from the middle of the ruler directly to the middle of the sticker and back, then that is good saccadic movement. Now, here's an example of an underdeveloped saccadic control. The red lines indicate the eye's movement, so the eyes often will overshoot the word, then skip back a little, thus taking the D in before the A, like in the case of the word and above. Their little eyes are all over the place. Or it will undershoot, thus not landing in the middle of the focal point, and then shoot a little further, trying to compensate, like in the word ran above. So they're not hitting the middle of each word like they should be, and their little eyes are kind of skipping back and forth because they don't have good saccadic control. We will get into some of the exercises in just a second to help strengthen these auditory pathways and visual control and things like that. But first, if you like what you've been learning and you want to learn more, we actually have a video training course that's 6 hours worth of short videos like this that gives you hours worth of intervention exercises and things that you can do with your child to help them overcome dyslexia. And we included a $100 off coupon in the email that has the link to this video that you're watching. So go back to that email and you can save $100 off on that and check it out. It comes with printable cards, all that you'll need for this system, with auditory strengthening cards and visual and some other things that we haven't talked about that are key for dyslexia, such as primitive reflexes, and it comes with all of the templates that you'll need, and we'll show you how to use them and then how to organize it down into like 30 minutes a day interventions so that you're not spending hours a day doing it. And it also comes with some cool printable sight word cards with the 200 most used sight words, all with pictures, because they're super good at picture association, and it will help them retain that and recall it better in their memory. And then also it comes with some templates for you to communicate with their teacher and school, and a checklist of accommodations that you have a right to ask for if your child is struggling. So it's basically everything you need to know if you have a struggling reader. This should help them quite a bit. So go back to the email and check that out. There should be a link below as well as a link in that email to access the page about that course, and you can learn a little bit more about what that offers. So now let's talk about the exercises. You did these little assessments on them. You may have seen things that they can improve on, and so let's talk about ways to improve on that. Now first, most kids with dyslexia have a weakness in their left hemisphere, and there's a very small percentage that test weak in the right hemisphere when they're dyslexic. Like I think 3% of right-handed kids have their auditory in their right side of their brain instead of their left, and a little bit more than that in left-handed kids. But we'll talk more about that in a future broadcast. If you aren't sure, then just use these exercises on both sides, but one at a time, so that the weak hemisphere has to process information and stimulation by itself. But because some functions cross over to the opposite hemisphere, like the control of your right hand is done with your left hemisphere, and some don't cross over at all, like your olfactory, if you smell in your left nostril, it's going right to your left hemisphere. So we're going to be doing different exercises on different sides, but we'll note those as we go through. So first, here's a little exercise for the smooth pursuit. Take a string and tie it between two chairs with a bead on it, and have your child sit in front of it and just slowly move it back and forth in front of them, and have them follow the bead as you do that. And that's a good little exercise, and you can do that 10 times once a day, or you can do it several times a day too. But you can also just do the exercise the same way that you did the test, with a little sticker on the end of a pencil, and just have them follow it. You do want to go more into the left and back than to the right and back if you're stimulating the left hemisphere for reading. Now this is just a little exercise you can do to help them with those saccadic movements that we talked about. Once again, some beads on a string, this time put 2, and hold them about 18, have it be about 18 inches long, and then hold it in front of them about 18 inches from their eyes, and have them look at the center of the string, and as you call out green or red, have them look directly to the bead and back to the center. This one you want to go a little bit more to the right to stimulate their left hemisphere. You can also just do the little assessment. You can use that same ruler to do more exercises with them. They kind of like it switched up, so you can do both of those. But here's a little auditory exercise, and you can make more up that are similar to this. This was just one we pulled off of our auditory cards. But in this one, you just stand behind your child and get some keys and some coins. And because here at Solve Learning Disabilities, bounced around there, we are all about learning pathways, or pathways in the brain. We'd like to do several different stimulation where they take information in auditorially and have to produce a gross motor skill with their large muscles, or they have to produce a verbal skill or fine motor, because all of these things happen on a daily basis when they're told to do things and there's a response. It's usually either large motor, small motor, or verbal. So we like to stimulate all of those pathways. So in the auditory to gross motor, we tell the child to march in place with his arms straight out in front like a zombie. And then we tell them when they hear the keys jingle to turn their head to the left, but when they hear the coins jingle to turn their head to the right. The jingles are slightly different, and they have to listen really hard to notice the difference there. And then we do the verbal, the auditory to verbal. We tell the child when you hear jingle, so this is a separate exercise. We don't usually do these at the same time, but we tell the child when you hear the keys jingle, say jingle, and if you hear the coins jingle, say jingle. So they have to listen, decode the sound, and then produce a verbal response. And then the way we do the fine motor, we tell the child to touch their thumb to their pinky when you hear the keys jingle, but touch their thumb to their middle finger when you hear the coins jingle. So these are, little ideas you can do. You can make more up, all kinds of things to produce a response to sounds, and And you can even just play games with them. Like you can do a treasure hunt where they have to find an item by following your verbal instructions. You can play Mother May I or Simon Says are good games. I like to play I Spy with My Little Eye with my 5-year-old when we're driving around, because she has to listen to what I'm saying and then, look around her environment to try and find something that matches that description. But make it fun. You can also go to the park and have them follow a set of instructions using the playground to earn a prize. That kind of play helps with balance and core strength. That's also super important to brain stimulation. So just make it fun and do all kinds of little games with them. Now, this is really important. This is called RAN, Rapid Automatized Naming, and this is important to help activate that word form area at the back left of the brain to help with automatic word recognition. So this, you just want to get a few cards and have your child name what is on them and put them down and do it as quickly as they can, and then do the same cards over and over again until they can do it very quickly. In the beginning, I might use pictures, like a little picture of a cat and a dog, so they can just say, cat, dog. But then I will start mixing in words so that they might have a picture of a cat and then a word of a dog. And so they start learning to see those pictures and take them in. Now, don't make them too difficult. Like if these children are struggling with bigger words, make them very simple words. Remember, the point here is just to stimulate that back lower part of the brain with automatic word recognition. And it's more important at this point to stimulate that part to become more active than it is to try and get them into harder words. So make it simple and do the same cards over and over again so that they can just name those words very quickly. And then maybe maybe start with 3-letter words and then maybe move to 4-letter words. But don't make it too difficult. Don't use, like, if they're in 3rd or 4th grade, don't use their spelling words to do this unless they can handle that. But you want them, this is all about quickly and rapidly naming them so that it becomes automatic to them and subconscious. And those are the exercises for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and that it's helpful to you. Be sure to check out our course. The link is below and there's a coupon in your email. So have a great day and good luck.